Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this live events that goes on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Thank you to the one joining us live, and thank you for all the others that will be watching the recording of this event. If you register, then you're gonna get the link. It will enable you to watch this event also at a later stage, or maybe if there is something that you wanna watch again, that you found the ideas from Joanna so interesting that you want to listen 3 or 4 times, then that's the opportunity to do it. By the way, I have the pleasure with me Joana Matos, and we will ask her to introduce herself in a moment. But first, let's try to find out a bit more about our audience. And so why don't you tell us a bit more about where you're based, or maybe you want to tell us something about your approach with artificial intelligence. Are you using artificial intelligence a lot? Do you use it for negotiation? Do you have any experience with AI agents? So, we do have a chat that you see in your screen, on the right side of your screen. So tell us, where you are, and if there is something specific that you want to get today. Remember, this is your LinkedIn Live, so we want to make sure that we make it as interesting, as relevant as possible for you. So let's get started, and let's find. Oh, by the way, just a second, because I just want to make sure that the technology work. There is always a bit of a delay between the moment that people put the input and the moment that the comments come, but I'm just a bit surprised that I'm not getting any comment, right? That's not usually the case. So let's try to find out if there is not a bug and it's only the two of us that are talking and there is nobody behind, but I guess it's more a matter of a delay. By the way, let me also take the opportunity to remind you that you can use, of course, the comment box to ask questions. So on a regular basis, we'll be checking the comments and we will address the question that are more important to you. Now, I'm very surprised that there are no comments on the chat. Okay, here they are. Okay, we are reassured. Ciao Pietro, good to see you. And here we are. Okay, hello Nelson from Hong Kong. Great, interested to know more about how to leverage AI negotiation. This is more a human-centric activity. Yes, okay. Now we have Rodman from Turkey. Hello, Noreen from Germany. Okay. Hello, Vladimir. Good to see you back. And here we have Yad Winter from Milano. Hello, Jadi. And fantastic. Now we are reassured that the system is working, and I can leave the floor to Joanna. Joanna, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Thank you, Giuseppe. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for making the time, either live or afterwards, to listen to us talking about such an exciting topic. My name is Joana Matos. I'm a negotiation expert. I currently work at Deutsche Bank as a negotiation expert, but I'm also doing a PhD in negotiation in AI because I do think there's a fascinating world that is unfolding, and I somewhat was curious of trying to be ahead of the curve, or riding that wave at least. And so that's why I'm here today, also to share some of the insights I found out. I know you're all very curious. This is a topic that is making people super curious. Can we use AI in negotiations or not, and how, and so on? So this is why I thought it would be a great opportunity to join Giuseppe here and talk about AI agents. And I know, Giuseppe, you had several conversations with AI and negotiations, so I hope I can bring a different kind of perspective to it, from a different angle, so to say. Yeah. And fantastic. I don't know, Giuseppe, yeah. Should I?
Fantastic. I'm pretty sure that we're going to get some new insight today. And I know the topic that we have chosen is AI agents. So maybe, can you, in the audience, we have people which have already quite an in-depth expertise, but also people that never touched it. So maybe, can we start by defining what AI agents, and then how are AI agents changing the dynamics of negotiation, especially
Exactly.
they're not mere tools, but they're actually active participants.
They're actually active, right? That's the scary part. But exactly, Giuseppe. And before you start imagining some humanoids robots wearing suits sitting across the table, like you saw in the picture here from Giuseppe, take a deep breath. We're not really there yet. So AI agents today don't always look like that. They actually don't really look like that, but they do negotiate. They do. And they're doing it already in supply chain and procurement, some customer service and other things. I'll give you some examples. So what we want to really explore is what really happens when you're negotiating with an algorithm, or or when you and the AI are negotiating together as a team, right? So really exploring what it means to negotiate against AI or with AI. And also in this session, we'll talk about some opportunities and risks that we might see and how we can stay ahead of that curve. So Giuseppe said, start with definitions. You know, my philosopher mind likes definitions. We have to define first what we're talking about, so everyone's in the same page. So in a simple way, an AI agent is a piece of software that can perform a task on its own. So if you think about it a little bit like a digital assistant, but it's a digital assistant that will make their own decisions, not necessarily checking with you first or every 5 seconds. They are actually making their own decisions. And so, you know, when we think about negotiation AI agents, doesn't mean you're talking to a robot or that has a voice or a personality. You have different things out there, but it really is a system that can make offers, can respond independently to counter offers, and can adjust their strategies based on feedback, based on its based on what's happening live, and can simulate preferences. So some examples of these things that we already have is procurement tools. So you have already AI agents that negotiate price with suppliers, and there's a couple of companies that I know of, and I've interviewed some of their founders for my PhD research, such as My Supply, Namu, and Pactum AI. You might have heard of some of them. They're all doing this independent AI agents or bots that negotiate with suppliers. And these AIs are comparing offers, they're making decisions, they propose terms, and sometimes even sign contracts. But also, what sometimes people don't realize with AI agents is that customer service chatbots are also AI agents. So even yesterday, we all have these situations where you see a charge on your credit card, you're like, oh my God, I didn't cancel that trial of 3 days, right? So I go to contact the agent and they send me to an AI bot, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long morning. But this AI bot, I wrote them, I said I didn't want to renovate, I just saw the charge. And this AI agent, totally independently, he canceled my account and he issued me a refund. And within 5 minutes, I had the refund being issued back into my PayPal account. All of this independently. So those are also AI agents. And I've also had some that tried to negotiate, like, I'll give you 10% back. You're like, no way, that's not enough. And you find yourself negotiating with this little robot. It's like, that's not what I want. So some are more smart than others. Some can be really frustrating. So we are all already negotiating with AI. We're just not calling it that yet, I think, Giuseppe.
Yeah, fantastic. By the way, I had the pleasure to have dinner with the CEO of Pactum in 2024, opportunity to see the test, and I found it quite interesting. And by the way, for the people that have not read it, there is an article from Harvard Business Review that describe, the initial, the first experience about AI agents between Walmart using Pactum AI. Just as some data from this article, 67% of the people, 67% of the time, the AI agent was able to close a negotiation, typical 3% of saving. And what's most surprising is that over 80% of the people liked to negotiate with an AI agent, probably because it gives you some time to think, You don't have to do it immediately. In writing, you have time to think, and probably because compared to the typical buyer in the retailing, the AI agents was probably kinder than the typical buyer in the retail. I want this and I want that and give me that. So, but this is something that has been going on for some time. But you told me that you attended the MIT Harvard Summit in negotiation in AI. So maybe you can share with us what are some of the key takeaways you brought back regarding AI agents that you would like to share with the audience.
That's true. Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks ago that I joined the Harvard MIT Summit on AI and negotiation. It was super interesting. They're hoping to repeat next year, so keep an ear out for it, because it was really, really nice to see the newest research. And one of the really interesting things, Giuseppe, and I don't know if we can provide people with links, but I know that Professor Jarrett at MIT is trying to get more people to negotiate against their bots to collect data. So before the summit, we had a competition of AI negotiations where we got the chance to program our own bots and negotiate against other bots. And that was really, really fun. To experience negotiating with the bots, see if you could kind of manipulate them, get a better deal out of them, and you had different personalities. But some of the interesting stuff that came out of that research that Professor Jarrett is already taking some data together, that I found one of the most fascinating in the summit, was that because they had 300 or 400 prompts from different people, they could see which prompts were doing better. And the really interesting thing, Giuseppe, was that the prompt that did the best in the whole competition was called Therapist 2.0. And the whole prompt was about, you are not a negotiator, you're a therapist, you ask questions, you listen actively, you validate the other party. And it was all this kind of therapist methodology. And then in the end, of course, they added a paragraph saying, well, but you do not reveal any critical information nor your alternatives, and you try to get the best deal out of this person. And this bot did the best, which shows, again, our interpersonal skills, active listening, and all this stuff that me and you are teaching and all our colleagues about easy on the person, hard on the topic, really were shown that this really works. Now, the bot that did the worst was called the Art of the Deal, and was a bot that was programmed to really try to, use any tactics possible to get the best out of the other side. And that bot really, really didn't. So it said, you can lie, you can cheat, you can threaten. And that bot did not manage to close a single negotiation, because the whole setup of the competition allowed the bot to walk away if they thought that this was not going in a good direction. So it does also show that if the person has the power to walk away, very aggressive tactics are not giving the best result. So along with this, we had a lot of really interesting presentations, some really, really nerdy that you didn't really understand very well from Google DeepMind and stuff. But I think the main takeaway is that we're going in the right direction of really trying to grow this persuasion things. And I know you're really into that, of influencing people and building a good relationship.
Wow. Very, very interesting with the results of Therapist 2.0.
Yeah, the best. The therapist
right?
really went for it.
Fantastic. Now, let's bring it to reality. I mean, what are some real-world examples where AI agents playing the strategic role in negotiations?
Well, that's a very good question, because this is no longer hypothetical, right? We actually do have some powerful examples in real life, mostly on sourcing and procurement. So like you mentioned with Pactum and AI and Walmart, that's one of the most known examples from actual practice where they did get really good results. But I know from other companies, for example, I know a couple of examples also from Namu and from my supplier, where I've interviewed and asked them about it, and they've negotiated multi-million euro deals fully conducted directly with the suppliers by an AI. So it was really an end-to-end, fully automated negotiation for a really massive investment. So mostly we've looked into this negotiation agents for tail spend, not high risk. Mostly these things, you wouldn't even touch it anyways, and then you automate it because, if you're not going to touch it, you might as well try a bot. But now we're seeing the companies getting more ambitious and trying with bigger cases. And I know Namu did the world's first automated preferential treatment negotiation, and the AI actually handled this pretty delicate balancing act, I would say, by managing openness, but at the same time protecting strategic preferences. This is not so easy. So this is not just automation. This is really strategy and some political nuances that we still were not sure whether AI could pull this. So there are some really good examples that go beyond automation, and they're not just suggesting techniques, they're really implementing them live in negotiations. So there is pretty interesting things happening out there.
Yeah, if I may, Joanna, let me go a bit deeper, right? Because we've been talking for years about the tail spend management with AI agents, but how do you see the strategic involvement? Do you think that AI agents will have a role also in more strategic deals? Is this limited to specific areas? I mean, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I would say that there are some pros and cons of negotiation agents for now. Of course, if you think of an AI agent, they're not emotional, they don't get tired, and they really don't care if it's Friday afternoon like today, right? And you just want this deal to be done. So they're really playing the long game, and there's some strengths to them. For example, that they can analyze like thousands of offers in seconds. We can't do that. At least I can't do that. At least not yet. And you can be negotiating across different countries, and they can spot really quickly pattern recognition. So they might know, well, this supplier always agrees to a 5% discount if you offer flexibility with this and that. And boom, you have a really fast strategy adjustment because they can access a lot of things. But now, then you have the reverse, which is they don't have this emotional intelligence that we have. They can't really read between the lines. So I'm negotiating with you. I'm picking out the excitation on your voice. I'm picking out the stress in your eyes. And the AI is still not picking out these nuances. And also we can be more strategic, and maybe I will lose this battle so I can win the war because I'm thinking about all the things that we and you are doing together. So I'm going to let you win this one because strategically this makes total sense. And we make concessions for relationships. So AI optimizes, but it doesn't really relate these things yet. So they win the spreadsheet, but they're not winning the soul yet, so to say. So basically, they'll do great in procurement and sales and legal reviews. They can read all this stuff and retail, but they still struggle quite a lot in diplomacy, conflict resolutions, things that are nuanced, messy, cross-cultural negotiations that involve a lot of power dynamics and unspoken things. They're not really good with ambiguity yet. We'll see. So I think really the best for now for this complex stuff is a teaming up. With their help, they do the numbers and we do the whole personal stuff. Like we get rid of all the data analysis and the really quick analyzing all the data. Because if you think about it, isn't it great? I'm negotiating with you and I have this little whispering thing that says, Joanna, this clause is industry standard, don't worry, this is totally fine, or this offer is 20% below average, you're doing great, keep going. And I think Giuseppe is likely to fall, just hold in there a little bit so you get a support, kind of a pal in your shoulder. I think that would be the perfect thing.
Okay. Okay. So when you look into the future, I mean, do you see AI agents co-negotiating alongside humans as team members, or replacing some of our roles entirely?
Well, honestly, probably both, Giuseppe, but in different contexts, right? So for strategic high-stake negotiations, like I was mentioning, I really firmly believe AI is going to be more like our companion, not our replacement. So more like a co-pilot. They'll give us the analytics, the historical, or some hidden trade-offs, or they might even simulate for us some potential moves. And this for us is really valuable because in a negotiation, like we know, you're juggling so many different things. You're reading the other party, you're analyzing the offers, you're thinking about your next move. And so this could be incredibly powerful. Now, for lower stakes, repetitive negotiations, AI agents are already sort of taking the wheel. In procurement, for instance, like we talked about, these agents are running full negotiations where the spend isn't strategic, but still requires optimization. And we're seeing even these companies actually challenging them, going a little bit further. So they're going faster, cheaper, and more effective than humans would. Because, like I said, with tail spend, usually we don't touch it. It's too expensive for us to actually go there. We don't bother with those situations. If you think even a little bit further ahead, then things can get a little bit wild. So one agent actually told me that soon we can expect AI agents to talk to suppliers on the phone in real time, negotiating different aspects of the same deal in parallel. So if you think about it, this is not science fiction, it's actually product roadmap. So the answer to your question, yeah, AI will co-negotiate with us in areas where our human touch and intuition still matters a lot, and might fully replace us in areas where speed, consistency, and data scaling is more important than relationships. So I think we'll have both. Let's see.
Fantastic.
Everything could happen.
Okay, great. Just, a small moment of pause to let people know other opportunities that are there to continue the learning journey. Because our next live event is going to be on the 15th of April, if my memory is correct. Yes, 15th of April at 1 o'clock in contemporary political negotiation, business learning, business lesson from contemporary political negotiation. So we just put the link on the chat. If you want to find out, what can we learn from what is happening today, for instance, with the tariffs and with all the other kind of things happening across the world, then join us on the 15th. I will be doing this event with Owen Derbyshire, the Oxford Professor of Negotiation. And by the way, with Owen, we are doing also a masterclass together, right? Owen and I will be running a strategic negotiations masterclass. And so, negotiating with difficult people, negotiating with no alternatives, managing internal external negotiation, or some of the challenges that may be there, then, join Owen and I, and you will have the opportunity to discover some more. We are going to put the link to the event also in the chat. It's the 17th and 18th of June in Geneva. The normal price is 3,000 Swiss francs. But since we just launched it, then now you can have it for 2,100. We are in the launch phase. We launched the event on Monday of this week. So do take the opportunity of signing up for this masterclass and benefit from the 30% discount in the launch phase. By the way, if you say, well, listen, I cannot make it to Geneva, or I'm traveling that week, etc., we have also other events. We have an event in Singapore. If you are based in Asia, it's called the Leading Edge Negotiation on the 28th and 29th of April. Or we have a virtual event. So wherever you're based, we have a virtual event that takes place over 1 year with one module every month. And that's another opportunity to get some more learning. What we are going to do, the other event, the virtual event, is called the High Performance Negotiation and Influencing. And we're going to put the link also to this event. And that's it for the advertising for today. But of course, some of you may feel frustrated that, in half an hour, you may not get everything you wanted. So how about, if you're interested to learn more, then finding out some more. Now, why don't we take some of the questions from the audience and see what they have for us. As a follow-up on the previous question, judging the speed of the development, what timeline will you expect agents will be truly autonomously operating on instigation of a human request?
Well, actually, it's already happening, right? So already these companies that I mentioned, like Pactum, like MySupply, like Namu, and there's several others. So apologies for not mentioning every of them. This is the ones I know best. Their AI agents are fully autonomous. So they're running this is mostly low stake negotiations. When they're fully autonomous, they run them from beginning to end, and they'll notify us or the user of the result. So it's already happening, and it's now just about developing, making it better, and optimizing it.
Yeah, and I've seen the system in action, right? It's not purely claim in value kind of situation, the nasty competitive kind of approach, but they will say, well, listen, if you give me this price, I will give you exclusivity for 2 weeks. If you do this, maybe we can change this clause on the contract, etc. So there is also an element of value creation that those AI agents are able to generate in the way they interact with people, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's take one more question. There was one from Matt. Let's see. Matt, here we are. How does the governance of the negotiation in a live environment work in practice? Is this simply giving suggestion to a team, or are you implying a lead in the negotiation? How is this managed?
Well, this is kind of a critical question because there's a big difference between advising and leading negotiations. It's huge. And especially in high-stake negotiations. So in practice, we would see 3 levels of governance, so to say, where AI agents are deployed in level and live negotiations. One would be then the advisor mode, where the AI is your support, not the directive. It's suggesting tactics, flags a risk like this clause deviates from our standard or simulates outcomes. If you do this, it could be that. So governance-wise, the human will remain in full control. And the AI is like some super intelligent assistants. And then you have the sort of the co-pilot mode where the AI takes a little bit more initiative. It might send offers or suggest bundles or initiate rounds of negotiation, always with a pre-approved framework. So within some sort of a framework, and a human team would supervise it and step in to take some key decisions. So we would retain the authority and the veto, so to say. So AI is starting to lead, but it's under the eye of the strategic human. Then we have the third one that I was talking about now, that was the previous question, which is the fully autonomy. And this is used mostly for now in non-strategic high volume negotiations, for example, where the AI agent is fully in charge and they initiate the negotiations, they adjust the parameters live, respond, they close deals. And after they close the deal, they will inform you, the human, of what they negotiated. And does it sound scary? Maybe a little bit, but not so much, because it's still only happening on stakes are low and where variables are well understood. And maybe you're renegotiating some standard software licenses across hundreds of suppliers or something. It's kind of a repetitive thing that you would never do. So yeah, this depends on your how you do this, which governance framework you choose. This depends a little bit on your risk appetite or of your organization. But it's really about finding the level of control that you're comfortable with for the right type of negotiation, I would say.
Perfect. Thank you. There is one more question from Matt. Then we move on. Are you only seeing example of AI negotiating with human? We already talked, or AI negotiating with AI?
Well, Matt, that's also a really interesting question, because in the MIT competition that I was mentioning earlier, they put all these AIs negotiating with AIs, right? But this is still in an experimental setting. So for now, we're doing this they're trying to gather data to see how it's working. Does it work and does it not? So I think, from the best of my knowledge, AI with AI is still only being tested. It's not really being deployed. I don't have any case that I could share where this has been done. But I can tell you that that's the goal, and that there's a lot of really smart people trying to research this to make it reality, which would be really the next level, to have this negotiation avatars, which was also a bit part of my research back in the University of Twente, to try to develop these avatars with the end goal of AI with AI. So I don't know, Matt, but they will come. It's a question of when.
Fantastic. And Joanna, to close this event, let me finish with a couple of future-oriented kind of question, which builds a bit in what we have seen so far. I mean, how do you see the role of negotiators evolving in the next 5 or 10 years with AI as a co-pilot, for instance?
I think our role as negotiators is going to develop and mature, and we're going to be focusing more on the human component of humans. And we'll have AI more and more supporting us on some of this preparation work of these numbers. Yeah, the study is still running. Sorry, I saw the comments. So I think that we'll stay human. We'll develop more of the empathy, of building trust, of the storytelling. That's really our edge, and we're going to use it. And we'll use AI more as a tool, not as a crutch. So maybe use it for simulations to check the data, but we're not letting it totally take over. I think the best negotiators will learn to use AI effectively, like we did with the calculator, but we're not going to let it substitute our brain. We're going to have to develop our critical thinking so we can take the best out of this. But there's really great stuff coming. I think, I think there's a lot of it's not man versus machine. It's man with the machine versus man without the machine. And that's going to be it, right? I have a calculator, you don't. So I'm going to be faster and better. So we're going to use this to superpower our skill.
Fantastic. And I think, you partially answer the last question that I had in mind, but, what skills may negotiator need to develop now to stay ahead in the AI-powered setting?
I think the skills we should be focusing now is really learning how to use these tools. And I know that that's a jungle out there. There's so many trainings and resources. It can get really confusing. There's so many books about it. But we really need to start spending a little bit of time every day, just like when you're learning a language and you spend 10, 15 minutes a day, to see how we can learn to use this. Do not let yourself fall behind. Play with ChatGPT, ask things, experiment, and get comfortable with the technology. The technology is not going away, and if you don't catch up with it, you're going to be left behind. So I would recommend all our colleagues and negotiators out there to start getting informed, stay very curious, but stay human and learn how you can use this for your benefit. That will be our future negotiator.
Fantastic. Joanna, it was a real pleasure, and I'm sure that the audience took a lot of insight as well.
So.
And so the future is coming. You get the key message, don't let it pass by. Don't resist and say, oh, but I don't like this. I like to continue the traditional way. Start playing with the tools. Then, focus on some of the competencies which are typically humans, the emotions, the body language, the trust building, etc. And make sure that you also get the other part. Make sure that you also get the analyticals, the simulations, and the historical data that you may better get from an AI tool, so that together you'll be super effective.
Thank you, Giuseppe.
Joanna, was a real pleasure again. Thank you very much for the audience, for your question, and for your participation, and for the one that are listening to us, also the recording. A warm thank you.
Yeah,
all the very
happy
best.
weekend, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.